Okay, so I want to talk about first aid, rescue type gear, um, and the important items. So I already talked about shelter. Shelter's very important. Probably your most important. You need a shelter solution. You may be motel hopping, that's fine. You don't need a lot of the gear in that case. But have a solution for your shelter. Number two on that is water. You need a solution for water. Now, conveniently, we're talking about motorcycle work here, which means on average, at most, you're going to be stopping every 100 miles for gas anyway. That's what most dual sport range typically is. So, your option for water, the simplest solution is just to buy a couple bottles of water, throw it in your gear, bring it with you, maybe fill up a bladder for your hydration pack, something like a platypus or whatever. You know, it sits on your back in your backpack, and then your little tube comes out. You can drink whenever you want, or a bottle of water. Now, that's the typical way of dealing with it. I do that, but I also bring one other thing with me. And the main concern here is if I break down and have to spend an extra night in the woods for whatever reason, maybe I've got an injury, maybe there's no chance for my rescue, whatever it is, but I like to bring a water filter. Now, 7-10 years ago, this was a very expensive thing to add to your kit, added bulk, added weight. Now it's a whole different ballgame. If you don't backpack, you don't do any other kinds of adventure, you're probably not even aware of these things. This is an amazing solution. This is called a Sawyer Squeeze. This is actually the Sawyer Squeeze Mini. It comes with this little bag. You open it up, you dip it in whatever water source you have, whether that's a river, a lake, a swamp, a cattle trough, right? Anywhere you've got water, a mud puddle, you fill this thing up, you screw the filter on there, and then you just squeeze the bag into your water bottle, and you filter water. This thing's good for over 10,000 gallons of water, no joke. It's actually like, I think it's 25 or 50,000. It's absurd how much this thing can filter. Only thing you gotta do is make sure it doesn't freeze, okay? So for motorcycle touring, generally speaking, that's not really much of a risk, at least for most of us. Next thing you're going to say is, well, that thing's probably pretty expensive. No, there's a couple brands of these now. This unit's like $15, comes with both. That's it. It's a very small price to pay. Another option, some people have seen a life straw. You can get by with that. Problem is you can't filter water into a container, so you can't stop at a river, at a rest point, fill up in order to bring it to your camp. You have to actually, for a life straw, you have to actually put one end of the water and actually use the suction power of your own body to get a drink. It's a little less ideal, but it still works. In a pinch, it's functional, and you can just camp near a water source if that's an option. Also, whatever the solution is, I do bring a dry bag. You can just use a Ziploc for this too, of course. I prefer a full dry bag because it has other uses. I put this inside here. The reason is because if you use the filter, it holds water and then might slowly leak a bit. I like to put that inside here and keep the water contained, because you don't want the water from anything getting into your clothes, on your sleeping bag, or anything else. Protecting your gear from water spreading around is very, very important. So on to, well, since we talked about water, let me stop first and talk about food really quick. I do not bring a stove. I don't bring dehydrated food with me. I don't cook that way. The main reason is because I have to get gas every day anyway, sometimes multiple times. I'm already stopping in some semblance of a town, or at worst just a gas station in the middle of nowhere. There's always a sub shop, something nearby where I can buy, eat, and then get something to stuff in my pannier and take with me. Just more convenient. What I do bring, though, based on how long, I'll bring a couple packs like this, a little Ziploc bag with, I like the high protein, like hiking type meal bars. Like this is a Pro bar here. Granola bar, some honey waffle stingers. I'll bring some of that. Like there's like 1,500 calories worth of food right here. So if I have a really long hike out to get to a road, to get to some rescue scenario, I have some calories with me in case I really screwed up and rode too long and then broke down in the middle of nowhere that I can't recover from. So that takes care of that need. Everything else I just handle en route. You know, some mornings if I happen to be coming through a small town on my way connecting trails and there's a place to sit down and eat some, you know, giant omelet, I'm going to do that. So No point pretending like you don't have to be around people on a motorcycle in the areas that I'm talking about riding here. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Smoky Mountains, just about anywhere in the U.S. aside from, you know, large expansive deserts and stuff like that. That's a different kind of thing. For this, yes, you can be 60 miles away from the nearest gas station or anything like that in those areas, but not much more beyond that. Another quick note on first aid. Get a first aid kit. Don't just buy a prepackaged one and then stick it in your bike. That's a good move. It's not a great move. Get it, open it up, look through it, see what's in there. You might be surprised. There's ratings on these things online you can read about. Some of them cost a lot of money and just are full of stuff you can't use, won't use, and are of no value. Others are really cheap and really good. Look through it, put things in that it doesn't have, take out anything you don't even know how to use. If there's chemicals in there with no instruction and you don't even know what to do with them, why do you have them? They don't do you any good, it's extra weight, get rid of them, or put the instructions in, do a little research, make yourself a little cheat sheet on a note card about when to use what things, snake bite solutions, etc. Put that in there. First aid kit, very important. When you're multiple people, not everyone needs a big first aid kit like this. Maybe a couple at most, depending on, you know, the group size or whatnot. A couple of the first aid items, and I'll go over the rest of this after, but definitely this is just a comfort item more than a first aid item to wrap if your ankle gets twisted or whatever. Anything more serious than that is going to be more of an issue anyway. So that's the basics of safety. I want to talk about this little gem. Don't forget this. If you remember one thing on your adventure, bring a partial roll of this. Put it in a Ziploc bag so that if it's pouring rain and you have another kind of emergency, you can pull this out of your bag. And if it's not wrapped in a Ziploc and you pull it out and it's pouring rain, by the time you go to do your business, this will be a wet, soggy mess and it won't be enough to solve your problem. Do this. A couple other quick items. This right here, just a garbage bag. Bring yourself an extra garbage bag or two. They become isolation layers to keep wet things away from dry things. You can pick up trash on the trail and bring it out with you, and you should. Okay. I'll be back in the next video with some more.